Hi, this is Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that spotlights the stars of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So sit back, relax, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Someone You Should Know. On this particular episode, we're going to go back to 2006. This is an interview I did with the drummer from Foghat, Roger Earl, the one with the mustache. And he and I were talking about an album that they were promoting. This is their second live album that they came out with. The original one was in, I believe, 1977. This one here was one that came out in 2006. Not only does Roger talk about promoting the album and some of the songs and some of the personnel on it, but we also talk about some tales from the road, those crazy road stories that seems like every band has got. We're going to talk about that. And also, Roger is going to talk about some similarities that they had with the band Spinal Tap. So sit back and relax as I reintroduce you to Roger Earl of Foghat.
Hello, Rick. This is Roger Earl from Foghat. How you doing?
Hey, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
You ready?
I'm working hard today.
Me too. Now, what's this? I hear you're a gardener. Is that right?
Well, I do have a garden now. Yeah, I grow vegetables and herbs and stuff like that. Potatoes, zucchinis, squash, eggplant, of course. What's life without a little eggplant and a tomato, right?
Very good. Got to agree with you.
I'm also a carpenter today. I'm building an office outside. So I have help, though.
Very good. Very good to make sure it's up to code.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, it's up to code. Yeah.
Very good. Roger, just follow my lead here. We'll get right into it, okay?
You got it.
All right, very good. Welcome back. I'm Rick Anthony, and we have a real treat for you this afternoon. Now, I talked to a member of this band back in 1980. I do believe it was about the time they were releasing a song called Third Time Lucky. I had talked to Lonesome Dave, and here it is 27 years later, and we're finally catching up with the band again. We're speaking with Roger Earl, who's been a drummer of this band ever since the dawn of time. Would you please welcome Roger Earl from Foghat? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Rick?
I'm trying to figure out what have I missed in the last 27 years?
Well, we've been rocking around the world.
I figured as much.
We have a new double live
right.
CD due for release this June 26th. Going to be in all the stores. We're really excited about it.
All right, real good.
Yeah, we recorded it in Southern California at a theater down there.
Very
There's
good.
also a couple of bonus tracks on there, about 6 bonus tracks from some studio rehearsals that we made. Before we go out on the road, we rehearse some new songs or new old songs just to make sure we're in the right groove and pocket and we're playing in the same key. And we liked the way they sounded, and we figured we'd put them on there as bonus tracks. But the largest amount of the double live CD is all live tracks. About 85% is all live.
Very good. Now, you've been doing this for 37 years as Foghat.
That's right.
Do you still love playing as much as you did in the early days?
I probably enjoy it more than I ever did. It's a real cool time for us to be playing. Wherever we play, like festivals, rock festivals, or theaters, or whatever, we get a varied audience, especially the 12 to 25-year-olds, which is gratifying. The fact that the music can reach over the different age groups, because people my age, like 50 to 60. They're all sort of busy doing other stuff now.
Absolutely.
But, we have a very large younger audience.
You're like me. This business is very much like my business in the sense that this is the only thing I've ever known how to do. You're a carpenter. You're also a gardener. You've got a couple of things you can fall back on.
In fact, my first job when I left school when I was 15, I was a commercial artist.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and I did that to support my drum habit until I was 20, and then I joined Savoy Brown, and though I didn't get paid for the first 6 weeks, I did give up my day job.
I say, yeah.
This is what I'm one of those fortunate few in the world that gets to earn a living at doing something I really love and enjoy.
Very good. Now, you guys signed with Bearsville Records. Was it 73? When was it with Bearsville?
1971 when we signed with Albert Grossman from Bearsville Records. I'll tell you a story. Sure. Maybe this would help keep some of you younger players out there, like into it. The reason you play music is because you love to play. Anyway, we'd left Savoy Brown, myself and Dave, and we'd formed. Well, it wasn't called Foghat at the time, but we'd made about 6 of the songs. We'd recorded them all that went on the first album. Our manager Tony Otida was shopping it around the world. He went to all the major labels, all the minor labels, and every single one of them turned us down. Every one. Albert Grossman, who was the manager of the band, Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin, Peter, Paul and Mary, a few other luminaries, and he was starting a new label, Bearsville, and I think basically he wanted to have a rock and roll band on there, as he just had the band, but they weren't on his label. So he was over in Europe touring with the band. And our manager at the time, Tony Otida, knew Albert, and he got Albert, some of the demos that we made. We rented a room in North London to rehearse. Albert came down to see us. I think we took his head off a little bit. We had those Marshalls and Hi-Watts turned up a little bit. And Albert said, after we played him about 6 or 7 songs, he said, is there anywhere we can go and get some tea and biscuits? There was a hotel across the road, so we went across there and we sat down. He ordered tea and biscuits all round. I mean, by this time, I'm on like pins and needles. And then he turns around and like looks at us and says, "Okay, let's do it." And to this day, I remember those words. And Albert Grossman gave me a job and like started me off on this road, and I'm forever grateful. So, all you people out there who are making demos and making records, even if everybody turns you down, don't give up. Do it for the right reasons. Do it because you love to play. And maybe there aren't too many more Albert Grossmans in this world, that's for sure. But keep doing it. Just stick at it because you love doing it.
Very good. In 77, someone handed me, well, actually it was my music director, handed me a copy of the live LP that you guys put out, and it contained one of my all-time favorite live cuts, your version of I Just Want to Make Love to You. Your accomplishments in that particular disc in 77 and what you've got now, how do they compare other than the fact that one was on vinyl and one's on CD? I don't. But that's a little difficult for me to actually ascertain. I can tell you this. I really like the version we did back in '77, and I'm really particularly proud of the one we've done now. We've, of course, as is our want, extended it by about 8 minutes. We do like this, like a blues jam before we actually start the riff, and I think sonically. The CD sound better. Just because I think things have improved. But there again, having said that, there is a real warmth to like analog recordings. But we'll let the people decide that. I am proud of both versions. Actually, all 3. We made 3 versions, I think, over the years. Oh, that's for sure. Now, this is something I'm sure you've got asked a zillion times. The origins of the name Foghat. I know you kind of. I think Linda told me the story about what you say. What's a Foghat? It's a very smashing hat when you want to rock and roll. But where did the origins of Foghat actually come from?
Actually, Lonesome Dave made up the word when he was playing a Scrabble game when he was about 12 years old with his brother John. And, we didn't have a name for the band, and we were going to see the artwork for the first album, and the 4 of us are trooping up these stairs, and we're going, well what are we going to call ourselves? So Dave came up with that, and we said, yeah, why not? We had a number of other names thrown out at the time, but we hated all of them. But Foghat was... actually, there's another side story to that. When we were in Savoy Brown, Lonesome Dave... his moniker was, Lonesome, or he was also called Jacksman for some reason. And he decided to name everybody. And he offered the name Luther Foghat to our lead singer at the time, Chris Jordan. Mm-hmm. But Chris couldn't see the wisdom of that. He didn't think too much of being called Luther Foghat. So he said Chris, and I think I was Skins Willie Johnson for some unknown reason. But Dave was like that.
Real good. Speaking of Dave, now we lost Dave and we lost Rod back in the 90s, and those were, of course, the heart and soul of the band. When something like that happens, like say for instance, Boston wound up losing Brad Delp earlier this year. When you have something,
was sad,
when you have something as traumatic as that, how do you guys go on?
Well, Rod had left the band in 99. Prior to that, Dave was undergoing chemotherapy and radiation for cancer. He had kidney cancer. He called me up in 99, and we'd been off the road for like about a year and a half, or nearly 2 years, I think, and said that he felt better and he wanted to go out on the road and play again. Rob Price didn't want to come out on the road and play with us, so I said to Dave, what do you want to do? Shall I audition? Because they lived in Florida and I lived up here in New York. And he said, no, Brian will do it. I said, well, you want me to hold some auditions for guitar players? He said, no, Brian will do it. I said, you sure? Mm-hmm. He said, well, you can hold some if you want, but Brian will do it. So, knowing Dave as I did, Brian Bassett became our new slide and lead guitar player. And I thank Dave on a regular basis for giving us Brian. He is not only a fabulous person, he's an absolute genius in the studio. He's a terrific engineer and producer. He's fun to get drunk with. And he also co-wrote a number of songs with Lonesome Dave that they wrote together. He was probably Dave's best friend, so there's a continuum there. And, I'm grateful to Dave for that.
Very good. Roger, one of my all-time favorite movies happens to be something that kind of parallels your band, too. Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap. Was released in the early 80s. It documents one of my all-time favorite rock bands.
Go on.
Now, this thing here, I read somewhere it says the documentary film Spinal Tap goes to 20. The members actually claim that the plot and the incidents in This Is Spinal Tap was based on Foghat. Now, I have a hard time believing that. For one, you're the drummer of the band. One, you didn't choke on vomit. One, you didn't get mangled in a bizarre gardening accident. And I don't think of any recollection of you spontaneously human combusting. So what's the story?
A little green globule on the seat.
Yes, is that a little globule? Yes. What's
a little green.
How did this rumor start?
Well, I mean, the producer obviously had to have some kind of leeway with that.
Right, yeah.
And obviously he couldn't call the drummer Roger, and the singer couldn't be called Dave, but he could be Nigel, or who was the other one?
Well, it was David St. Hubbins, and of course he also had Derek Smalls.
Yeah, Derek St. Hubbins.
Yes.
I don't know, but I can tell you this: there was the Hello Cleveland bit where they're all wandering around in the basement and in the pipes and getting lost. That's happened to us. I don't know if it was based on us. Certainly some of the situations were closer. Well, no, you can't look at that guitar. No, they don't touch. You can't look at it. They don't touch it. I don't know. You have to ask the producer about that one.
I know. And here's the thing that actually talks about Spinal Tap. You and Derek Smalls, who was the bass guitarist for Spinal Tap, had two of the most definitive mustaches in the rock and roll era, and you've shaved yours off. Now, what's the story?
I got tired of having soup an hour later. No, it's only hair. It's time for a change. Actually, I did grow it back a few years back. I don't know, about 10 years ago I grew it back, but it was white. It's white now, so I look sort of like a cross between a biker Santa Claus. Which probably at certain times of the year could be okay.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. It'd actually be Father Christmas over there, wouldn't it? No,
yeah, Father Christmas, right. Father Christmas, give us your money, otherwise we'll beat you up. Is that the Kinks, right?
That's the Kinks.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the two members that have actually replaced Rod and Dave.
Okay.
We mentioned Brian already. Let's talk a little bit about how they came to be part of the band. You mentioned Brian already. Your other member?
Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Hune, yeah. After Dave died, he died in February of 2000. During the 3 or 4 months after that, I had to sort of I was under some pressure to put the band back together. We had an enormous amount of debt, but I wasn't so much concerned about that. It was, if Foghat was going to continue, it had to have a singer. You don't replace somebody like Lonesome Dave. He had a tremendous hand in this band. He was the main writer, And he was, in fact, the heart and soul of the band with his singing and his knowledge of blues and rock and roll music. And every night that we played with Dave, he never gave less than 110%, even when he was ill. And to find somebody to fill those shoes and to fill that spot in this band was quite a daunting task. But as it so happens, we did a show in 1997 when Dave was still alive in Toledo, Ohio, and supporting us was Humble Pie. And fronting the band was Charlie Hune. Well, Dave and I went out there to have a listen to this bloke who's singing our mate Stevie Marriott songs. Mm-hmm. Now, the band started off playing musically. I didn't think too much of them. But as soon as Charlie started singing, Dave and I both said, whoa, and took a step back. And when it came down time to actually start making decisions about singers, I called up our road manager, Michael McConnell, and said, Michael, remember this guy who sang with Humble Pie? And he said, yeah. I said, what's his name? He said, Charlie Hune. I said, do you know how to get hold of him? He said, yeah. Michael was a man of few words.
Seems like
he got hold of Charlie. I talked to Charlie on the phone. I sent him a bunch of CDs and tapes, like 20 or 30 tunes. I said, learn these and give me a call. He called me up. He called me back a couple of months later and said, got it. He came out to the house. We sat in the living room, went over stuff acoustically for a while. Then we rented a room at SIR Studios in New York City, played for about a week, and hit the road, and the rest is hopefully history in the making. Charlie is a tremendous talent. He was on Ted Nugent's records between 78 and like 82, probably some of Ted's best years, in my opinion. He also sang with Gary Moore. He had a band in Europe called Victory, and Charlie is a great talent, and like Lonesome Dave, he never gives it anything less than 110%, and we're real fortunate to have somebody of Charlie's talent, and he's a lot of fun to get drunk with, too.
Now, I talked to Linda about this ahead of time, and I want to find out, what are some of your favorite road stories with Foghat? We do a little thing called Tales from the Road, and everything from buses being broke down alongside the road to being left behind at a rest stop to hotel rooms that have caught fire. What's some of your favorite road stories that we can actually air on the radio?
Oh, you can actually air on the radio. It's just like, it's just a family show.
I hope so.
Right. It's a family show. All right, I'll try and keep it clean.
All right, lay it on.
Let's see. Oh, I know, yeah. Here's one for you. In 1970, maybe 1980, actually. We're on the road. We're on the road with the bus. We've been up for a couple of days, as was our wont back then. We were having far too much fun. We roll into Hollywood, Florida, like down in my part of Miami, and we get in about 7:30 in the morning, and I stagger up to the front desk and say, "Bed, please." By about 8 o'clock now, they give us our room keys, and I'm loaded down with baggage. I've got like a backpack, I've got my briefcase, and I've got my suitcase in my hand. So I'm wobbling around. I stagger over to the elevator, the elevator. The elevator doors go in. I turn around and back in because I've got all these bags and I wanted to lean up against the back wall. Well, guess what happens? The back wall to the elevator opens up into the restaurant. I carry on through the elevator, smack into a waiter who's carrying this huge tray of breakfast, knock it flying all over these people. Tables are going over it. It's sort of like the Three Stooges, but I was a single one. With that, I pick myself up and say, "Oh, sorry," stagger back into the elevator and disappear. I felt very bad for them. But, hey, they should have a warning, shouldn't they, saying, "Careful, doors open." But maybe it was there, but as I backed in, I didn't see it.
Very good. Now, Spinal Tap might have used that one in an additional scene for their DVD.
I think people have actually used the one bumping into waiters and knocking breakfast everywhere, right?
That was really good, though. I really liked that real good. We're speaking with Roger Earl. The new disc is coming out when? It's into June, right?
June 26th, it's going to be released. It'll be in all your stores. You can also download it via foghat.net if you follow the instructions. You can find out where we're going to be, where we've been, who and what we are through foghat.net. That's our website. And we're going to be on the road. We're going to roll to road and rock till we drop.
Very good. Foghat Live 2. Make sure you pick up a couple hundred copies of it and support my good friend Roger Earl. Bless you, brother. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Rick, pleasure talking to you. Take care, and I'll see you out on the road.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.